And speaking of which, we are getting to the trade deadline. I mean, I say the Guardians, they still have a shot. I don't know if they'll do anything with it, but you're looking at that roster. You have multiple all-stars. You have guys that have done things in the past. Strong minor league system. You're not paying them much. And Jose Ramirez might be an MVP candidate.
Yeah, Cleveland's in a really interesting position going into the trade deadline. Currently, they're standing at 46 and 44, so they're 2 games back of the Twins. The Twins went on a little skid prior to the All-Star break, and Cleveland went, I believe, 6-4 in their last 10 going into the All-Star break. So they are, only 2 games back of Minnesota. They're 2.5 games back of the impossibly crowded wild card in the American League. I don't know that that's really going to be the avenue that they want to pursue if they're trying to make it into the playoffs. Overall, though, Cleveland has a +5 run differential. So, they're giving up about as many runs as they're scoring, which kind of tracks when you take a look at them statistically. Overall, as an offense, they have a .314 on base percentage, which is middle of the pack at 16th in Major League Baseball. They've only hit 71 home runs, which is 28th in Major League Baseball. So they're not a power hitting lineup for sure. Overall, they had a couple great starts going into the All-Star break, so it's actually dropped their team ERA under 4. Currently, their team ERA sits at 3.87, which is, again, middle of the pack in Major League Baseball. Same thing with their on-base allowed. Currently, they're surrendering a .240 on-base allowed, which is 14th in baseball. So they are in a very interesting spot as far as just whether they're going to be buyers or sellers. Like you mentioned, they have Jose Ramirez, who's a statistical monster, MVP candidate, signed a 7-year contract, full no trade clause. Like, he wants to be in Cleveland and he wants to win there. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. They have a great young core there, though. Like, a lot of the players that they've brought in, Andres Jimenez was their big return in the Lindor trade. He's turned into an all-star this year.
He's looked better than Lindor, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 10 homers, 7 stolen bases going into the break. He's already produced 2.5 wins above replacement, which is just kind of, if you're not familiar, wins above replacement is just an overall measure of like a player's offensive and defensive production, and it tells you about how many wins they would provide you relative to a player that you would call up just an average player from AAA. He has a player, yeah. Exactly. Right. Yeah. He has Jimenez has a 138 WRC plus, which means basically he's hitting better, 38% better than a league average hitter. He's really been, and on top of that, he's playing amazing defense. He's a lot of fun to watch in the middle of the infield. So, Cleveland has a chance to bring up some reinforcements.
I know Nolan Jones has gotten his shot recently.
There you go. I was just going to say Nolan Jones is kind of like that's the big bat. That's what's coming from the farm system. So Cleveland doesn't have a great track record of developing outfielders. It's been their Achilles heel for forever. I mean, since the Dolans really went out and signed Nick Swisher and Michael Bourne, which was its own problematic free agent signing that I think has made that front office a little more reserved at how they spend money in free agency. But they can't develop an outfielder. They can't they can't bring in and sign outfielders. It's really been a difficult spot for them to be in. So that would seem to be the logical move for them to make, would be, bringing in a consistent, I think, everyday power hitting outfielder. Not that those are in that you don't just find them lying around on the street corners, but I think that would make sense for them to really improve their lineup from there.
So based on where they're standing, because they are in the hunt, but I mean, at that's, as you're saying, their run differential sort of backs their record, and it's a very young team outside of like Ramirez, and I think they can continue to improve and set themselves up for next year. How much, is it worth it for them to go after that outfielder? Would you do it for the right price? Are you willing to sell out thinking that you can get a guy that can help you this year and next year when you might be a little more competitive? Or would you just not do anything if you were Cleveland?
I think if I was in Cleveland's front office, and again, I probably have a little bit different perspective just looking at this from a fan standpoint, as opposed to like a front office where my job is on the line kind of standpoint. But I mean, I think with their division being so up for grabs and so available for them, that it would really make sense for them to push all their chips into the middle. I just kind of, when I think of a team like this, I think of the Andrew McCutchen era Pittsburgh Pirates, where they had a shot to go after Giancarlo Stanton, with a year or two left on his deal, when the Pirates were looking at making a serious playoff push. And, all trade offers basically started with Gregory Polanco and Jameson Taillon. And prospects are just that. They are prospects. And I think when you can go out and get a proven talent that, his impact in a playoff series might be minimal, but he might also be up in that spot where you need a big time outfielder to take a swing and hit a home run, and he might be the one to do it. And I really think it makes sense for, if you're in Cleveland's position, flags fly forever. You never know what prospects are going to do later down the line. I would say be aggressive and go for it. I think that goes against every natural instinct of that front office, and I don't think they would be apt to do it, but that's what I would do if I were in that position.